Welcome to the video, everyone. This good-looking guy to my right is my very good friend, Mike Callahan. While I'm talking to you, or about you, do you know what is a really bad idea?
Is it walking in to a former UFC fighter's gym and challenging them to a fight?
Yes, that is the bad idea I was thinking about.
Do you know what's an even dumber idea? Being a UFC fighter and beating the shit out of some random guy who walked into your gym because he was talking shit to you.
Yeah, I would say that was also not a good idea. We shared the video on our Instagram that Joeriggs put on his Instagram last week where that exact situation happened. An untrained guy was talking shit to Joeriggs and challenged Riggs to a bare knuckle boxing match, and it went about as well as you'd expect.
Yeah, so we got a ton of comments on the page when we put this video up, and to be honest with you, there's a lot of people out there who are still trying to sort through this, who was in the right, who was in the wrong, who started this. We're going to dive into it. We're going to share our opinions on what we think of this whole thing.
Well, from Jump Street, the whole video was wrong because there wasn't a single person wearing Epic Roll stuff.
That was your takeaway.
All I'm saying is
the entire thing.
All I'm saying is these guys could have used our code podcast15 at epicrollbjj.com and at least looked good during this whole debacle.
Epic Roll does have some pretty awesome stuff. Anything that you need, they have. Any type of gear, short shirts, rash guards, belts, coffee mugs, anything. They got you covered.
Make sure you follow and tag at epicrollbjj on the gram when you're wearing your new stuff. Even if you're going to go in to get beat up by a UFC fighter, I guess, you should still tag them.
Yeah, epicrollbjj.com, and use the coupon code podcast15 for 15% off all your orders.
Let's break down a beatdown. Welcome to that Jiu Jitsu podcast. If you haven't seen the video, Joeriggs put this up and we shared it on, like we said in the intro. Basically, a guy was shit talking him a lot, and I don't know what was exactly said before the video. I don't know what the comments were online behind his keyboard. I don't know, like, all that backstory.
This guy said that he is the best bare knuckle boxer in the world. That's what he said. And he somehow challenged Joeriggs, and they set it up so that he could go down to Joeriggs' gym, and this fucking guy showed up.
So the video was almost 2 minutes long of Joeriggs repeatedly dropping this dude and letting him get back up, and then the guy just being stubborn on top of dumb and just kept staying in there, and Joeriggs just kept putting it on him. And there was a lot of reactions. What did you say when you sent me the clip before I posted it? Do you remember what you said when you sent it to me?
No. Do you remember what I said?
Yeah, he said, so Joeriggs is a scumbag. Let's talk about this on the show.
Yeah.
So that was our initial reaction. I've watched the video several times, and like I said on Instagram, I shared it on my personal account and on the show's account. I genuinely was curious what the people who enjoy our program would think about the video like this, and there were a ton of reactions. So we're going to work through some of them and give our reaction to the reactions, which would be our reaction to the video as well, I suppose. Before we get to the reactions, I have a story about a person who came into a gym one time wanting to fight. I don't think that you were still there. Do you have any stories about a person coming into the gym and wanting a fight in this sort of same situation?
No, but so not like specifically coming in like trying to fight people, not like a Gracie challenge match or anything like that, but you do have people coming in. How many times do we see people come in and you ask them, if they have any experience, and it's like, oh, just street fighting. I've heard that. Like, I would never say that, but people used to say that. There were a number of times that people would say that when they used to come into Revolution.
Have you ever noticed that every person who says they're a street fighter always says they're an undefeated street fighter? Where are all the people who were losing street fights? They can't all be undefeated. Someone has to lose these fights. Why is every single street fighter undefeated?
Someone has to lose. Yeah. It never really held too much weight with me, to be honest with you. I didn't really, it didn't carry the day. It didn't really impress. Yeah, and I'm not like saying like it was just silly, you know. And I think that people were just trying to say that so that they, you know, you wouldn't think less of them coming in as a new
I
student.
don't know.
But
Well, one
whatever.
time I was working the front desk at the gym Mike and I used to train at together, and a guy came in, and it was a very weird interaction where he basically like wanted to sign up to train, and he immediately asked me when the sparring night was for MMA. And I told him, I was like, listen, man, like, you're not going to spar right away in MMA or in the kickboxing class. Like, that's not something beginners do. And then he said to me, which I thought he was joking at the time, which was like, oh yeah, I just really want to get beat up. And that's something like people say, like, self-deprecating, like, oh, I'm going to train in a new school, like I'm going to get beat up because the guys are going to be good there, like not actually beat up, like physically harmed, just going to get, beat up a little bit by the good jiu-jitsu guys. So I sort of laughed it off. And then as the conversation kept going, I realized that this dude just wanted to be in a fist fight, but he didn't want to like do it in a bar or go to jail for it. And he was getting increasingly angry and like just wanted to fight someone. And it basically got to the point where I was like, listen, man, I just don't think this is going to be a good fit for you. Like, that's not what happens here. We don't come in and just bare knuckle fight each other. Like, this is a jiu-jitsu school with a kickboxing program and an MMA program. Like, this is not for you. And then he basically was like, I want to fight right now. Someone fight me right now. Like, I just need to fight somebody. Um, and at this point, like, Anthony, the owner of the school we were at, heard the escalation of the conversation and came, and now me and Anthony and this dude are like standing there talking, and the dude is getting like fired up, and Anthony's just sort of letting him talk. And if you watch the video version of this episode or any episode we do, you may know that I have an expressive face and I have a hard time not, like, someone says something stupid, not just being like roll my eyes or like smirking. And so the dude turns like, oh, this guy's laughing at me. You want to fight? And then I was like, no, man, like, I'm just listening to you talk. Like, maybe you should just go. And he eventually left without incident. But if I would have said, okay, you can go in right now, like, this dude would have tried to have a street fight on the mat with someone. Like, he just wanted to fight someone. And he
Right.
left. And I think when he was leaving, we had said, like, come back in a few days if you calm down and we can talk about actually training. And he never did. But that was the only time that someone came in, like, looking for a fight kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'll talk about this just a little bit here because it's not a generalization, but you know, there's it's combat sports, right? There's a combat element to martial arts, and that it's not coincidental that some emotionally disturbed people, or it does attract some emotionally disturbed people. You know, that some emotionally disturbed people gravitate towards martial arts simply because of the combat aspect of it, not because of the discipline or the martial art itself, just simply because of the combat element to it. So yeah, that's not surprising. You hear stories about this all the time. And if we're being serious, I don't know anything about. I'm sorry. If we're being honest, and I don't know anything about this guy who walked into Joeriggs' gym, but knowing what he said to Joeriggs, and Joeriggs has 70 professional fights, so knowing what he said to Joeriggs, and then for him to take an overt act to go to make this happen, to go to Joeriggs' gym and do this, and then seeing the extent of his skill set, I yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he was an emotionally disturbed person, right? Like,
I mean,
I wouldn't.
just for
So,
anyone
and
who's enjoying our fine program right now, who maybe doesn't train jiu-jitsu at all and is just a fan of MMA and likes our show and has no martial arts background whatsoever, you, no matter how big you are, will lose a street fight to an actual fighter. You will lose a street fight to an
yeah,
amateur fighter, not even a pro fighter. An amateur fighter
yeah,
will beat you up no matter how big you are. So
Yes.
Trying to think that, oh, you know what? I'm 200 pounds and this guy is 150 pounds and he's an amateur fighter. I could steamroll him.
No.
You cannot.
You
You
won't.
won't. It's not going to happen.
No.
So just don't do it.
Think again.
So if you think that you, as a qualified street fighter with the heaviest sarcasm I can lay, is going to beat up a guy with 70 pro MMA fights, it's not good. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So
It's not going to happen. Nope.
there was, like I said, there was a lot of comments on the post that we had shared, and I would like to go through some of them and some of the ones that were most echoed by other people, and then sort of respond. So the first one was at Darth_father_BJJ and at Real Ron Florida. They both said similar things, basically that it was okay for Riggs to accept the challenge, but after the first time he drops the guy or the guy seems out of it, then Riggs should have stopped it. And don't just, just because the guy is willing to be stubborn and stand in there with you, you could have, known he's learned his lesson and stopped it. To an extent, I can agree, but you could have challenged him to an MMA fight and taken him down and choked him out. There's, concussions are not something that you want to mess around with, and this guy for sure walked out of there with one, even if you stopped it after the first knockdown.
Yeah, this guy got fucked up. I don't think that it's okay for Joeriggs to accept this challenge. I don't it's not on Joeriggs to show this guy that he doesn't know shit about boxing or anything like Joeriggs. It's not Joeriggs' responsibility to do that. Short of this guy attacking Joeriggs, punching Joeriggs, or not hitting him, but like attempting to come at him or do anything or to do something where Joeriggs felt like he was in immediate danger, I just don't see the problem with walking away. And I know I'm going to catch a lot of shit because this really was. If you go on Joeriggs' page, you'll see a lot of people were supporting what he did, and I just can't get behind it. I'm a Joeriggs fan. I followed Joeriggs since the early days. I've always rooted for him, but I can't get behind this, and I don't agree with people who say, oh, he was okay to accept the challenge, but he should have taken it easy on him or he should have stopped. I can't get behind the idea of a guy with 70 pro fights going full bore with a guy who, you watch his stance, you watch how he's throwing his punches, shouldn't even fucking be in there with him.
I would love to give Joeriggs the benefit of the doubt and say maybe what this guy said to him is more than Joeriggs is leading on. Maybe threats were made or terrible, disgusting things were said, or, because as much as I would like to say, if someone challenged me to a fight and no matter what they said, I'd walk away, there is a line that someone could cross that I would be like, okay, let's do it. And maybe Joeriggs, and again, this is just me, I don't know this for sure. Maybe I'm just trying to protect Joeriggs or make excuses for Joeriggs or whatever. Maybe the guy said something over that line and Riggs felt like it was okay to do what he did, but also Riggs wanted to protect this guy from the hate of the internet and didn't say that, just so you know, this guy said XYZ awful thing that would warrant anyone wanting to hurt him. I don't know that that's true. That's me as a fan of Joeriggs trying to maybe make an excuse for him, but I'm just putting that out there that we don't exactly know what exactly was said. And yeah,
even if it was something that was said, Joeriggs isn't some 18-year-old kid. He's almost 40 if he's not 40 already.
This is a fair point.
Just like it's his job.
This is a fair point.
I'm sitting over here saying it's not Joeriggs' job to put this dude in his place. It's not, who the fuck am I? It's not my job to sit here and get on a high horse about him doing that. I just,
Well, moving right along.
I can't get behind it.
Yeah, so. I and that was one of the next comments was at the Mixed Grappling Philosopher. Sounds like a cool job. Said turn down anyone with an uncredited training background. So anyone who walks in and says they want to fight, then you should turn that down. And I would more or less agree. If someone walks in off the street and says, I want to fight you, and they don't know how to fight, then you're probably going to go to jail for murder. Right, officer?
I don't know how the laws work down there. But yeah, I agree with this guy for that it shouldn't have went down. And if that's his reasoning behind it, because this guy wasn't trained, sure. Yeah, this shouldn't have went down.
At _doctor_evil_ complicated username for me to read.
It's a lot of fucking underscores.
A lot of underscores.
Yeah, it's how many underscores?
Ending on an underscore.
He's a doctor of underscores.
_doctor.
He's got his MD in underscores.
He didn't spend 12 years at underscore school to not be called doctor. Thank you very much.
Fucking underscores. Sorry.
He says
a lot of people go to school for 8 years.
He says this guy will either sign up and work hard at learning to fight, or he will stop talking. I don't think either of those things will happen. I think he probably will go home and tell his friends that he did pretty good against Joeriggs, and you'll never hear from him again. And he'll probably change his username and start talking shit again, just with a different username. Would be my guess.
Yeah, I think that this guy is doctor underscore fucking delusional, because that's not going to happen. He's not going to sign up at Joeriggs' gym because he just got fucking embarrassed by Joeriggs in front of his entire gym, and given how this thing played out, I'm sure he's not going to stop talking shit. So, yeah, I would agree with Justin on that.
At DLunaBJJ, much better username, basically said a pro fighter has a responsibility to turn down a challenge like this, but someone dumb enough to antagonize a pro fighter probably isn't taking no for an answer. And if two consenting adults want to fight, it is what it is. It's true. They are both consenting adults and they both agreed to it. I think is it Seattle where you can basically have like mutually agreed upon combat?
There's only
right. Like the cops, if the cops just can like stand and watch if you agree to fight, like linesmen in a hockey game.
Yeah. There's only a few. I mean, even if people are mutually agreeing to fight, it still doesn't make it okay. But I mean, the first half of that was right. Like this guy, the other side of this too is like, why the fuck is Joeriggs wasting his time on this guy? Like Joeriggs is still a professional fighter. He's doing bare knuckle fights now, but why the fuck is he wasting his time fighting bare knuckle with this fucking guy off the street? What happens if he hits this guy in the head and he breaks his hand?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's so much to lose and so little to gain if you're Joeriggs for doing this. And what in his mind, what is he gaining? Teaching this guy a lesson? It's just like, this guy doesn't mean anything to you. If he's talking shit, who cares? A lot of people said some version of the same thing, and I'm gonna quote at DarceKnight1, that's a clever username as well. Oh, I like it, DarceKnight.
A lot of people said it, but on the YouTube version, I'm putting up screenshots of these comments. So I want to keep that trend going. So I had to pick one. So at DarceKnight1, I picked yours. DarceKnight1 said, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, probably shouldn't talk shit online, especially to pro fighters. And to an extent, I agree. If you talk shit, you get hit. If more people were held accountable for what they say online, less people would be terrible people online, and maybe Twitter wouldn't be such a garbage fire.
This is worse than a street fight because this was arranged. There was, there was thought actually put into this. The thing with Chael Sonnen that happened in Vegas when he fought those guys, like that's him fighting 5 guys who were drunk in a hallway in Vegas who were probably in his face and doing all this. It's like a spur of the moment thing. And street fights, there's an element to street fights where sometimes they just happen, and you have to defend yourself. This isn't that. This isn't like in a gym full of people. This isn't that. This guy didn't walk up to Joeriggs on the street and take a swing at him. Like this was arranged. Unless I'm misunderstanding.
I agree,
something.
But I think what our new friend at DarceKnight1 is alluding to is that if you talk shit to people, you should be held accountable for that. Like when Colby Covington was talking a bunch of shit to Fabricio Verdum, and Verdum confronted him and threw a boomerang at him in Australia.
Yeah,
I think
on the street.
Right. But I think that the consensus was Verdum was in the right. People thought Verdum was in the right because if you talk shit, then there should be, should be held accountable. I'm not saying in this context of like a pro fighter versus an untrained amateur essentially coming in that this level of violence should happen. I'm saying if you are going to be a keyboard warrior and talk shit, if you were held accountable in a certain way, maybe there'd be less of that.
I'll never get behind this. I watched it years ago when that douchebag Koscheck brought somebody into the old AKA gym in San Diego and did it, and Bobby Southworth and John Fitch and a bunch of them were all around while this guy and his buddies showed up, and he obviously had no martial arts training, and Koscheck beat the shit out of him. I watched a video of Sean Strickland doing it after this, after we were talking about the Joeriggs thing. I can't get behind it, especially when guys have no training. And there's other ways to show them the effectiveness of like being properly trained. Put them through a class. Put them through supervised sparring. Do that. Don't put him in a ring with a guy with 70 fights. Like what do you expect's going to happen?
Right.
If you told me, okay, this guy is going to get in the ring with Joeriggs, and you showed me this guy just standing there shadow boxing and he looked like he looked in that ring. Like if I knew that and then that happened, I'd be like, yeah, yes, okay. Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah.
As sure as the sun will rise tomorrow morning, that was going to happen. I just don't I don't think it needed to happen. But was there any doubt as to what was going to happen? Besides the fact in that nut job's mind who walked into Joeriggs' gym, he probably thought he was going to beat Joeriggs up because again, he's most likely an emotionally disturbed person, but.
I think part of me combines this answer with the one answer we had a few minutes ago where it's very dumb. It shouldn't happen. Joeriggs should have turned it down. As a pro fighter, you have an obligation to not demolish people and hurt people this way, regardless of what was said. If it's to a point where you feel like this guy is going to become violent, then you handle it. But again, you don't just keep pummeling this dude over and over and over again. And at a certain point, you probably should have realized that you're just really, really harming a person who doesn't know any better. And I don't mean that doesn't know any better in the sense of like their athletic ability. They don't know any better in the sense of like they're too stupid. They keep coming forward and getting hit and clobbered. So it's safe to say neither of us will be beating up anyone, no matter how many mean comments we get on the YouTube version of this episode.
Yeah, and only one of us is actually capable of beating up people.
We all know who that person is.
Yes, we do all know who that person is.
Thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed the video. Let us know down in the comments whether you agree with us or whether you agree with Joeriggs or somewhere in between.
And while you're in the comment section, make sure you smash that thumbs up button, and please make sure you're subscribed to our channel.
Also, when you're done subscribing, maybe you should watch one of these videos over here next. And if you want early access to episode and tons of bonus content, the link for that should be somewhere down here if I'm good at blind pointing.